All right. Hey everyone, how's it going? Azren, the language nerd here. Hope you're doing very, very well. Today's Sunday, August 9th, 2020, and this is episode number 76 of Azren's Journal. For those of you who are new to this segment on my YouTube channel, it's pretty straightforward. This is a segment on my channel where I talk about my personal language learning journey and, of course, give you guys a bunch of language learning tips. Now, a couple of quick updates before we start today. So update number one, you'll have noticed there's some different types of videos that are getting dropped on this channel nowadays and being released. So nowadays I'm making these Azren's Journal. That's number one. There are these Tuesday talks with Azren. They're Tuesday live streams every Tuesday, 12 p.m. at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So that's where I live. So we have Azren's Journal, Tuesday talks every Tuesday. There is how to teach videos, which are released once a week. And that's it. Those are the three styles of videos on the channel right now. Oh, what am I talking about? There's a fourth style, Ask Azren. So again, the four videos are Azren's Journal, Tuesday Talks with Azren, there's Ask Azren, which is now on the channel as well, and then there's the How to Teach videos. So all of those different styles of videos have different types of content that I cover. Ask Azren is a bit of an experiment that I'm running where I have someone interview me. She's actually doing some part-time volunteering, but might turn into some part-time work, part-time volunteering / work, interviewing me, asking me different questions about language learning, and I talk about it. It's a bit of an interview show, I suppose. And then she goes and makes a couple of different graphics for Instagram and Facebook and things of that nature from our interview based on the things I said. Tuesday Talks is a bit of a question that's based on a Facebook group that I run called the Language Learning Nerds. And every single Monday, there's a poll that gets posted about what language learning topic people would like to see me talk about. I then, based on the poll results, I make a video based on the most popular thing that people vote on. Then there's Tuesday Talks, Ask Azren. Then there's this style of video here, which is just kind of my journal where I give some advice, but also share my personal language learning tips and journey rather. And then of course there's the How to Teach videos, which is where I talk about how myself and my teachers teach here at the Calgary Language Nerds. So 4 different styles of video on the channel as of right now. And yeah, we'll see how that all plays out and how it goes. Now, let's talk about the topic of today's video. I'm a little bit tight on time. I only have about 5-6 minutes left here. And so here we go. There's 2 different types of listening comprehension, or rather, maybe more specifically, 2 different types of ways that people listen to another language. And I'd like to talk about what they are. Way number 1 are people who listen for global understanding. What does this mean? This means that someone talks, they hear what the speaker says, and their brain starts to listen for keywords, and it pieces together based on the keywords and sounds that it hears. It pieces together meaning based on those general observations. So these types of people generally tend to understand things pretty quickly, and then things just kind of fire off in their brain, and they seem to get things pretty quick. And that's definitely a plus. But one thing this type of person doesn't do is they don't listen for nuances. They don't notice that the verb was conjugated in this tense. They don't notice that this preposition was used. Heck, sometimes they only get the general gist of what someone said, but they don't understand on a very detailed level, on a minute level, as to what the speaker was trying to say. So I'll give you an example. I've got some students I've worked with, many different types of students I've worked with, who when I show them a video in the target language and they listen to said video and they watch said video in the target language, what happens is they're like, yeah, I understood everything. They say, I understood everything. They feel that they understood everything in the video. And they're like, yeah, I got it all. And like, yeah, I know the speaker said this, he talked about this, he then talked about this topic, and yeah, I understood. But the moment you actually question them, if we rewatch the video and we pause the video at certain parts and say, what did he just say there? They'll be like, can you play it again? You play it again, they're like, I'm not sure. But initially, they didn't realize that there's stuff they didn't understand because they're just listening in general to catch the general gist of what the person's saying, and they're piecing all that information together in their mind to create meaning. This is one type of person who This is one type of language learner, I suppose, when they're listening to things. The second type are people who are the opposite. They listen in a more minute fashion. They actually listen to every word, every grammar point, all the different sounds. I probably default more into that style, to be honest, by my default anyway. I'll notice that, oh, even though I remember in my Spanish class back in high school, my teacher always said, like, she didn't always pronounce D's, or rather, she never pronounced D's like an English D. She said it like a the, because Spanish D's are different than English D's. And here I'm listening to the teacher thinking, that D is different. That's not the English D. What kind of D is she pronouncing? Huh. Right? Or I was the kind of person who would notice, they keep saying he hecho and not yo hice. Why? Right? Versus just thinking, oh, I heard the verb hacer, great, I can piece it together. Why are they doing that tense difference? Right? There's advantages to being this type of language learner, listener, I suppose. There are advantages, but there are definite disadvantages as well. When you get so technical, sometimes you catch yourself listening word per word and trying to translate word per word what people say, which makes it difficult to actually understand what people say. Sometimes it can be frustrating because you overanalyze grammatical things. You might overanalyze, why did they say it like that? Why did they say it like that? Why did he say this? Why did she say that? You might overanalyze things in your mind. You know, there are things like that that can happen. But I find there's those two different types of listening comprehension, I suppose. And there's pros and cons to both. And yeah, there's pros and cons to both. I don't think there's one that's better than the other. I will say that on a teaching perspective, you know, I me as a teacher, I think I prefer working with people who listen more minutely and kind of word by word, because people who listen generally, they jump to conclusions. They think they understood stuff, but I know they didn't understand. There's no way they understood. It's harder to get them to really listen. Often it's harder to teach these people conjugation and actually speak grammatically correctly, because they're not listening to people speak and listening for things to sound correct. They're just listening and getting the meaning across. They're like, oh, I understood generally speaking what they said. And then they speak that way. They just speak to get meaning across. And there's mistakes left, right, and center. There's mistakes everywhere, to the point where sometimes what they're saying doesn't actually make any sense. And they're just emulating kind of what they think other people are doing back to them. They're not thinking of it in a detailed fashion to make themselves come across intelligently, coherently, etc. They're not doing that because that's not how their brain's working, right? So my personal preference, I find it tends to be a little bit easier to work with people and teach people who default into the more minute way of listening, more detailed way of listening, because they speak more accurately. I can explain. They really know when they didn't understand something. They know they don't know that word. They catch things. They're more detailed and methodical in their approach. And sometimes it can be a little bit easier to teach people like that. Yeah, not to say you can't teach the other type of person as well, but you definitely can. But yeah, so let's wrap this up here. Thank you for watching this, everybody. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your whatever day it is for you. Nice and short little episodes. I teach literally right now. I'm looking at the time. It's 7:30. So have a good day. We'll chat later. Bye-bye. See you.